Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we plunge into, well, frankly, stacks of sources, articles, research, and pull out the key nuggets of knowledge, the important insights for you. Today, we are doing a really crucial deep dive. We're looking at a powerful and pretty urgent document from the Kenya Wantamotim Movement, or KWM. Yeah, so our mission today is to properly unpack the core messages, also the criticisms, which are quite sharp, and the very direct calls to action. These are all presented in an article on their website. It's titled, "Where Are You, President Ruto? When Will You Take Responsibility for Kenya's Crisis?" Published July 8th, 2025. And it's remarkably direct, doesn't pull any punches at all.
No, it really doesn't. And what's fascinating here, I think, is how this one document just encapsulates such a specific and very impassioned viewpoint. It lays out a really detailed case about the state of affairs in Kenya, well, as they see it. So we'll be exploring the arguments they make, digging into the issues they highlight from their perspective naturally, and also the solutions they're proposing, all laid out by the movement itself in this article. And just to be clear, like always, our aim here is to understand the source material as presented by KWM. We're not here to endorse it, obviously, but to give you those unfiltered insights it contains so you can grasp their message, their framing.
Okay, right. Let's get into it then. To really understand the urgency KWM feels, we need to start right where their article does, because as you said, it wastes absolutely no time. It sets this very stark, almost confrontational tone right from the first sentence. It grabs you immediately. The article opens, and I'm quoting here, "The streets of Kenya are suffocating. It's a crisis you can't ignore."
Hmm.
I mean, that immediately paints this vivid, almost visceral picture of a nation, well, a nation in deep trouble, according to them. So, from the KWM's viewpoint, what are the key parts, the critical elements of this crisis they're highlighting so urgently?
Well, they certainly don't hold back on the language, do they? It's highly charged, very emotive, designed to convey extreme severity as they see it. It claims Kenya is, quote, sliding deeper into crisis and burning literally and figuratively. Strong stuff.
Figuratively and literally burning. Wow.
Yeah. And to back that up, they list specific examples, tangible things. They mention schools are crumbling, hospitals are overwhelmed, and roads are in worse condition than they were 10 years ago.
So, concrete examples of decay.
Precisely. And they wrap it all up by describing the nation as being trapped in a loop of neglect and failure.
Hmm.
Now, the strategic reason for this kind of vivid, almost gut-level description, it seems clear they want to create an immediate sense of shared suffering. You know, evoke urgency in the reader, galvanize a collective emotional response, make the need for intervention feel absolutely undeniable.
Right. It's definitely a rhetorical strategy. And then the article pivots, doesn't it? It gets very direct, almost accusatory. It says, "This is not what you promised. Kenya deserves better than this."
Hmm.
Now, that's not just a general complaint, it feels like a deep sense of betrayal, maybe, unmet expectations.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That feeling of unmet expectations, profound disappointment, almost like a broken contract.
So what's the strategic play there, framing it as broken promises?
Well, focusing on betrayal isn't just emotional. Strategically, it lets KWM frame the crisis as a fundamental breach of trust, between the leadership and the people. By saying you broke your promises, they're trying to delegitimize the government's mandate.
Right, suggesting they forfeited the right to govern.
Exactly. By failing to deliver. It's a tactic to galvanize public opinion, tapping into that sense of, moral outrage. It aims to make leadership change feel not just political, but like a moral necessity, undermining legitimacy at its root.
Okay, so moving beyond the general description of the crisis, there's this central theme running through the whole KWM article. This direct question, aimed squarely at President Ruto, "Where are you?" They ask it repeatedly. Why does leadership seem so absent, so conspicuous by its absence, during what they call a critical time?
And they don't just ask, they challenge directly. They question the president's actions, or maybe more accurately, the perceived lack of action. They ask, can we even call what you're doing leadership, or is it just a never-ending series of mistakes followed by a chilling silence?
That's a direct quote, chilling silence.
That's the quote. And then they pose this really pointed question. Who's really running Kenya right now? And they named names Farouk, Sudi, Yoho, suggesting the government is, quote, a puppet show.
A puppet show, wow.
Yeah. So from KWM's perspective, this points to a fundamental, deeply worrying breakdown. Breakdown of trust, of accountability at the very top. And by naming names, alleging a puppet show, they're trying to personify this perceived failure, give people a clear target for their discontent, implying, that real power isn't where it's supposed to be. It's outside the legitimate democratic structures.
They certainly don't hold back. The article claims the president is, quote, more interested in holding on to power than solving the country's most pressing problems, up one quote. And this line really stuck out to me. He has mastered photo ops, but when it's time for real action, you disappear.
What about that specific critique, the mastered photo ops versus disappearing? What's the angle there? What frustration does that tap into?
Well, that's a potent line, isn't it? Because it attacks the perceived authenticity, the commitment of the leadership. Contrasting photo ops with a lack of real action implies, superficial governance, prioritizing image over actually solving problems.
Performance over substance. Exactly. It's not just about being inefficient. It suggests a dereliction of duty, that the leader is maybe unwilling or unable to face the real challenges, and the deeper frustration it taps into. It's that feeling of being ignored, maybe taken for granted by those in power. People feel they're just performing for cameras, not serving the people. It's a strategic move to paint the leadership as out of touch, disingenuous, eroding confidence further.
And the KWM article, it doesn't just focus its criticism on the presidency, does it? It turns its attention to the legislative bodies, too, specifically asking, why hasn't Parliament been called into an emergency session to discuss this national crisis?
Right. The source expresses, significant concern, almost disbelief, really, about what it calls the deafening silence from Kenya's parliament. It questions why the National Assembly isn't, forcing answers, holding combined sessions to tackle these urgent issues.
So demanding action from them, too.
Yes, and posing these deeply critical questions like, is Parliament now just a rubber stamp for your government? And demanding to know, where's the oversight? Where's the accountability? So from the KWM's viewpoint, this perceived inaction signifies a fundamental abandonment of what democratic institutions are supposed to do.
The checks and balances seem broken, in their view.
Exactly. The belief seems to be that these bodies, meant to represent the people's will, have become maybe complicit or just irrelevant in a crisis, essentially losing their legitimacy as independent branches. It's a pretty powerful indictment of the whole political system, not just the executive.
You can really feel the frustration in the writing. The KWM suggests these bodies seem, quote, utterly paralyzed, unable or unwilling to respond. It highlights just a profound disillusionment with the process as it currently stands. Now, as we continue digging into these arguments, these urgent calls for action from the Kenya Wantam Notam movement, the KWM, it's maybe a good moment to mention that the source material itself, their website, actually extends an invitation. It asks people to get involved.
That's right. It reflects their whole participatory ethos, I think. The website explicitly encourages wider involvement. It says, visit www.wantamnotam.com and create your account. Start sharing your ideas that can help change your village, city, and nation.
So it's not just about raising awareness.
No, it's more than that. It clearly shows the movement wants broad participation, not just observing the crisis, but actively contributing to and shaping the solutions they're pushing for. They seem to be trying to mobilize collective action, gather ideas from the ground up.
Okay, so back to the article itself. It builds towards this really powerful, unambiguous call for action near the end. It directly addresses the president again. You must take responsibility for the mess you've created. Stop hiding behind your ministers and advisors.
So what exactly is KWM demanding in these final, impactful statements? And what are the stakes they're highlighting? Well, the demand is clear. They state explicitly, the people of Kenya deserve more. They deserve a leader who will step up and lead. And they really emphasize the urgency, declaring quite bluntly, Kenya is not a game. The people of this country are facing real struggles every single day.
A very human element there.
Absolutely. And then they assert with total conviction the National Assembly and Senate must act now. Okay. Now, connecting this to the bigger picture, KWM frames this whole situation not just as, bad governance or simple policy failures. They frame it as the survival of a nation.
Survival of a nation, that's incredibly high stakes.
It elevates the whole thing, doesn't it? From political debate to, an existential crisis. The message is that inaction could be catastrophic, that fundamental change is needed for the very fabric of Kenyan society to hold together. The stakes, as they put it, couldn't be higher.
Given those demands, that vivid picture, what does this specific article tell us about KWM's broader vision? If we look beyond just this one piece, what's their overarching message seem to be?
Well, building on the demands in this article, we can see their larger strategy kind of emerge when you look at their website structure, other post titles. For instance, their navigation bar has a section titled Fight Against Impunity Accountable Leadership. That clearly signals a core focus.
Accountability and impunity. Okay.
And then look at other article titles they feature prominently, like The Time for Change is Now. The police, army, and Kenyan citizens must unite. That was July 7th. Or Why William Ruto must be impeached. It's time for change from July 6th. And then this incredibly bold one. The time for revolution in Kenya has arrived, taking back what is rightfully ours. That was dated July 5th.
Wow, okay. So unite, impeach, revolution. That's quite an escalation.
It is. It makes it abundantly clear that KWM is advocating for massive, profound, truly transformative change. These titles together show the wide and frankly quite radical range of solutions and actions the movement seems ready to endorse, from national unity across different sectors to impeachment, even to outright revolution.
So how does that kind of stance, that unyielding position, escalating from unity calls to revolution, how might that affect their strategy, their potential to build coalitions? What's the KWM perspective likely to be?
Well, this pattern, this consistent ramping up of urgent and radical language, it suggests KWM sees the current situation as basically stuck, intractable through normal political channels.
Like conventional politics won't work anymore.
That seems to be the implication. The progression accountability, then impeachment, then revolution suggests a belief that fundamental, maybe even drastic shifts are required, perhaps inevitable. For KWM, this tough stance is likely meant to show unwavering commitment, to signal that, small changes aren't enough. Now, sure, such a radical approach might push away some potential allies, some more moderate groups.
You'd think so.
But it's also a powerful way to mobilize, to galvanize those who feel most let down, most desperate for a complete system overhaul. It positions the movement as the only real answer to the crisis. It paints a picture, really, of a movement that thinks the time for compromise is over.
Yeah.
That only a total reset of power will do.
It definitely paints a comprehensive and, as you say, pretty unyielding picture of a movement pushing for fundamental shifts. Shifts in leadership, and maybe the very structure of governance in Kenya. So today, we've taken a deep dive into this urgent, pretty raw message from the Kenya Wantam Notam movement, the KWM, as presented in their article, Questioning Leadership, Demanding Accountability in Kenya. We've looked at their vivid, sometimes harrowing descriptions of a nation they see in crisis, their sharp, direct criticisms of what they perceive as absence and inaction from the top offices, and their clear, uncompromising calls for responsibility, for significant change from both the president and the legislative bodies.
And understanding these specific perspectives, these bold demands from movements like KWM, it's just crucial, isn't it? For really getting a handle on the broader socio-political landscape they're operating in. This dive offers a vital window into the kinds of conversations happening, the depth of frustration out there, and the specific pressures being applied for deep change within Kenya. And their rhetorical strategies evoking suffering, challenging legitimacy, calling for drastic action. They're central to how they're trying to sway public opinion.
Yeah, this deep dive really highlighted the direct, the unyielding, the very vocal stance of the KWM. They explicitly state their intent with phrases like, and this is a quote again, "Skiza walkin' ya skiza ground," or "be impeached, be kicked out by our votes, even before Funhamen ends." Just for clarity, "Skiza wakin' skiza ground" translates roughly as, "Listen, Kenyans, listen to the ground." It's emphasizing a grassroots demand for leaders to pay attention to public feeling.
Right, listen to the mood on the street.
Exactly. And one time refers to the first term of the presidency. So that phrasing, it leaves us with a pretty compelling question, maybe something for you, the listener, to think about. In a world that's just drowning in information, how do movements like KWM use language that's this potent, this direct, to actually cut through all that noise? How do they effectively try to rally a nation to their very urgent cause? And just a reminder, if you are interested in learning more about the movement's call for engagement, how they invite people to participate, the source material itself encourages you to visit www.wantamnotam.com. You can create an account there, start sharing your own ideas, as they put it, that can help change your village, city, and nation. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the Kenya Wantam Notam movement. We really hope it's given you a clearer, more comprehensive understanding of the perspectives contained within this significant and quite impactful source.